Hey everybody, it's the Burger Dude, and today I want to show you how I make a McRib like McDonald's, but vegan and better. And McDonald's only releases the McRib for a limited time each year, so it's built up quite a cult following, but the good news is you can make a McRib anytime you want with this recipe. And today we're actually going to make the McRib two ways. One method is to just use some Beyond Meat, and the other method is to make it with some seitan and homemade barbecue sauce. And this recipe is really just a mashup of two recipes by Wicked Healthy and Sarah's Vegan Kitchen, so make sure to check out the links in the description for their awesome recipes as well. So let's get started with the jackfruit. You're just going to want some canned jackfruit like this. Just make sure it's not the sweet kind with the syrup, and you'll be good to go. So drain the jackfruit and then add it to a steamer pot and give it a good old cover, and we're going to steam that for about 12 minutes to soften it. In the meantime, let's get our vital wheat gluten together to make our seitan, as well as some chickpea flour. And if you've never made seitan before, it's a lot easier than it looks. It's intimidating at first, but once you do it a few times, it's like nothing. So add some more seasoning. We got smoked paprika, as well as some garlic powder, some chili powder as well. And then of course some cumin or cumin, depending on how you say it. Nutritional yeast, of course. Give that a whisk, and that is our dry mixture. Now we're gonna get our wet mixture together. So we're gonna start with some mushroom powder. This stuff is great. I saw Sauce Stash uses it a lot. I'll leave a link in the description for that stuff as well. You can also add some soy sauce or tamari. And then we're gonna add something to sweeten it up. You can either use maple syrup, or I'm gonna use some of this leftover vegan honey. And again, I'll leave the recipe for the vegan honey in the description as well. It's very easy to make. You just gotta reduce some apple juice. And then some sriracha. I do like this stuff by Yellowbird. Next up is a big heaping or 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And we're gonna do some neutral oil. Just make sure you use something that doesn't have any flavoring in it. And then liquid smoke, which is obviously gonna make this nice and smoky. And now if you can find this stuff, this is by far my favorite vegan beef broth. If you can find it, I'll leave a link in the description as well for that. And while I was getting my broth together, somebody called me and it caused my phone to stop recording, and I lost, there you go, I lost the scene of me pouring the broth. So just for the sake of argument, pretend that you saw me pouring the broth in there. But you're gonna do 1.5 cups of the beef broth, as well as a tablespoon of these onion flakes, and then just whisk that together. And now we've got our wet mixture. And by this time, your jackfruit should be steamed. So take a potato masher and just mash them up, and feel free to take out the seeds and the tougher parts if you like, but I don't mind them. I find that I can mash them up pretty good. So that's what it should look like when you're done. And then we're gonna add it to our dry mixture like that. And then all we need to do after that is give it a good old mix. And then next we're gonna take that wet mixture, but we're only gonna use half of it, because the other half we're gonna use as our braising liquid to cook our seitan steaks. So just add in 1 cup. It should be about 2 cups. So add in about 1 cup of your wet mixture. And then we're gonna just mix that up. And for seitan, this is gonna be a bit of a softer and looser dough than typical, but that's okay because it's gonna come out real great. If it is a little too wet for you, then, add like I did, add in like a tablespoon of some more vital wheat gluten, and then just knead it and get everything all nice and combined. And just knead this for, a minute or two in the bowl, and just make sure that everything is gonna stick together. But like I said, this is gonna be a slightly looser sort of grind than usual. Usually seitan is very, very tough, and it's almost like bread dough, basically. I mean, it is bread dough, essentially. So after you've punched your seitan for a few minutes like that, just take out some of your aggression. You're gonna have a nice loose loaf, and what we're gonna do next is just knead it a bit more. And then after that, we're gonna kind of flatten it to be about the thickness that we want our McRibs to be. And I got 6 McRibs out of this. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna cut it in half down the middle like that. And then I'm gonna cut it in thirds on each side. And initially I was just gonna kind of eyeball each patty, but then I realized after a while, let's get some science in here and let's weigh these out and make sure that they're all, approximately the same size. So I did 3.5 ounce patties, and then after that, I had a little bit left over, and I just kind of took it and divided it evenly 6 times and just added them. So they were roughly, maybe 3.5, 3 3/4 ounces each. And that turned out to be perfect. So now what we want to do is shape them, and this is going to take a little bit of practice. It took me a little bit of practice. I tried using some parchment paper on top to see if that would help, and it didn't really. And another tip I like to do is just make sure, like, whatever you're, if you're making burgers or whatever, just make sure that you have, for reference, have your roll right next to you so you get the right shape and the right length and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing worse than having, your bun to meat ratio being way off. So make sure you do that at the very beginning and you won't be sad when you're eating your sandwich later. So once you've got them shaped to your liking, we're gonna get a baking pan and lightly grease it with some oil, and then we're going to place them in there. And this next step was pretty unnecessary. In fact, I would actually advise you not to do this because it makes it a little bit structurally less stable. And this is an easier way to get your McRib from the cutting board into the pan. Just use the parchment paper like that, and it'll make your life a little bit easier. So now we've got our 6 McRibs in the pan, and they're all ready to get braised. The only thing they need now is some of that liquid. So now you're going to pour the other cup of your braising liquid all over them and give them a good old bath like that. And then we're just going to add them to a preheated oven for 25 minutes at 350 degrees. And in the meantime, let's make some barbecue sauce. So we're going to start off with some ketchup, of course, followed by some brown sugar. And then we're going to use some more of that vegan honey and just add as much as you like. Make this as sweet or as smoky or spicy as you like. It's very, very customizable. And then next up, we're going to add in some molasses. And I'm going to speed this up because molasses does tend to move about as quickly as molasses does. And it's very sticky as well. And then, of course, smoked paprika. I think I put smoked paprika in pretty much everything. Some more chili powder. And in case you're wondering, that's what I mean when I say chili powder. And then, of course, some cayenne. Add as much as you like or take it out altogether if you don't like spicy. Some cumin, some garlic powder. And then the chipotle and adobo, which, again, I love to put this in just about anything that I can. That's what they look like. And then we're going to do some what's this here sauce. And just make sure it's vegan. Sometimes they got little fishies in them, and we don't want those. And then I'm using some white vinegar. I made this once with apple cider vinegar, and it was just a little bit too much vinegar for me, so use whatever you like. Taste it with a clean finger, and once it's where you like it, set it aside. And after 25 minutes, that's what our McRibs look like. So what we need to do now is just flip them, and they are going to be very, very delicate. So be very, very careful because they're going to want to fall apart, especially if you cut out the little rib pieces like I did, which again, don't do that unless you want to make your life harder. So flip these around. And if you're like me and a lot of your braising liquid is already evaporated, add some more water like I did. And then we're going to bake it for another 25 minutes. And that's what they look like. And I know I don't look the most appetizing right here, but I swear to God, once we cover them in barbecue sauce and grill them up, they're going to be super delicious. So speaking of which, get a cast iron pan or any pan that you like, or you could do this on the barbecue grill if you like too. Grill up your buns so they're nice and golden brown, and then we're going to slather some barbecue sauce on that McRib. And we're going to grill this for about 2 or 3 minutes, and that barbecue sauce is going to get nice and blackened. If you have a grill press like that, go ahead and use that as well. And now we're going to give this a flip, and then we're going to brush it with some more of that barbecue sauce. And when we brush things with barbecue sauce like this and then we grill it, it's going to get a little black, but that's really just all the sugars caramelizing. And it tastes super awesome. It's not burnt tasting at all. And once you've done that for a couple minutes, it's ready to be served up. But before we do that, I want to show you a way to do this if you're short on time or if you just don't feel like making some seitan and you have access to these Beyond sausages, you can totally just use these. And they must have changed the recipe because I've done this before where I would take the casing off, but I couldn't get the casing off, so I said screw it, and I just smushed them into patties. And again, I decided to employ some science and weigh these out. And a Beyond sausage package comes with 4 sausages, so what you can do is make each patty out of 1 1/3 of the sausages, and you'll come out with a bunch of uniform patties. And again, I'm doing the thing where I'm using my bun as reference. I'm just doing some sculpting, some sausage sculpting there. And then again, totally unnecessary to do that. Do it if you like, but totally unnecessary. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with these as we did with our seitan McRibs. We're going to brush them with some sauce, and then we're going to grill them on high heat, and we're going to give them nice and blackened because we're going to caramelize that barbecue sauce. So brush it on, and then give it a flip after a few minutes. Carefully. There we go. We got that nice char on there, and then just brush some more sauce on there. And then once you've done that, after a couple minutes, it's time to plate it up. We're going to add it to our rolls, and then we're going to brush on, of course, some more barbecue sauce. Get as much barbecue sauce on these things as you can. Get them on the buns as well. And you're going to have leftover barbecue sauce, but you're not going to be mad, I swear. Add some onions and some pickles. Make sure you get pickles on every inch of that McRib, because nothing worse than getting a pickleless bite. And now we've got our 2 McRibs. We've got the seitan one here first on the left. And I realize, you know, in retrospect, for appearances, I should have maybe brushed on some more sauce because these might look a little dry, but I swear to God, they were super juicy. And I even ate them cold. We had a bunch left over, and I was just like an animal eating them cold straight out of the fridge, and they were still super good. So now we've got the Beyond Sausage McRib, and this one probably looks a little bit more appetizing because I did brush on a bunch of barbecue sauce for the photos. But to be honest, they were both super good. Oh wait, hold on. I think I forgot to do the Burger Dude Psych Out thing. I was so excited to eat this thing. There we go. But yeah, they were both equally good. The Beyond Sausage one did taste like Beyond Sausage, but both of them were super duper good. And again, if you've never made seitan before, I really urge you to give it a go. It's a lot easier than it looks, and it's super rewarding. But no matter which way you make it, I really think you all will love this recipe as much as I did. I mean, I literally had McRibs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like 2 days straight and loved every second of it. So if you do make this recipe, let me know how it goes, and I'll see you all next week.